Hi, Mahul. Thank you for
Hey.
joining us. And we also have another interpreter, ASL interpreter with us, Genesis. Thank you for joining us as well. Mahul, tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your role at AWS?
Sure. So I'm Mehul Shah. I'm the general manager of search services at AWS. This includes the Amazon OpenSearch service, OpenSearch, the open source software, and one of our legacy services, Cloud Search.
Okay.
All right. So what did you launch?
So we did two things actually recently. The first thing is that we renamed our managed service. It used to be called the Amazon Elasticsearch service to the Amazon OpenSearch service. And we launched a brand new engine that you can use called OpenSearch 1.0.
Okay. So I think let's make sure all the names and brands and terminology is really clear to our audience. So perhaps explain Elasticsearch and OpenSearch and put those into perspective and relationship, if you could.
Fair enough. So let me tell you what OpenSearch is. OpenSearch is a distributed data system. It's an open source search and analytics suite. Okay, it's you can just go download it and start using it. It includes OpenSearch, the engine itself, as well as a visualization layer called OpenSearch Dashboards. And you can use it for a wide variety of use cases. It's really a broad set of use cases that it supports. A lot of our customers use it for log analytics. If you're trying to go and figure out what's going on with your system to do root cause analysis, for example. They use it for real-time application monitoring, and we also see it used for website search pretty frequently. One of the cool things about OpenSearch is that it actually indexes all of your data, and you can get answers really within seconds and under a second. You can run queries over that data, over petabytes of data, and get answers really fast. And then if you're not if you really prefer visual tools, Dashboards allows you to kind of discover and browse the data sets that you have. And so that's what OpenSearch is. And it's really an open source continuation of Elasticsearch, which was the original engine that we're based off of. And that's the open source engine. And the managed service is just it lets you run, it basically manages running a cluster of OpenSearch clusters or domains in your account.
Okay. Now, Mahul, you said all your data. How do you draw the lines around that? What kind of AWS sources does that actually entail?
What a great question. So our customers actually, you put a variety of data sets in there. You can put structured data sets in there. You can also put semi-structured data sets in there. And these things include things like your machine logs, click streams, JSON data, the kinds of things that you use that's really coming out of various applications and machines so that you can go and understand what's going on in your system. So we see customers using it for also documents as well. So if you're trying to do search across your website, that's another example of a kind of data set that you can put in there.
So you've talked about OpenSearch a little bit. What is special about OpenSearch 1.0? What do we need to know about that?
Sure. So OpenSearch 1.0 is really a fork of Elasticsearch 7.10, and OpenSearch Dashboards is a fork of Kibana 7.10. You see, our customers came to us and they sort of said, listen, we're really used to Elasticsearch, and we're actually quite customer obsessed. But what's happened is Elasticsearch and its license has changed to a proprietary license, and they really enjoyed the open source Apache license version 2. They want to be able to take advantage of the open source community, the open source tools, and the ecosystem, and the variety of ISVs and vendors that they can go and rely on. And since they didn't have an open source option, we decided to fork and create a new distribution called OpenSearch of the engine and all of the components that were within it.
Got it. So, can you talk a little bit about the existing open distro for Elasticsearch project and OpenSearch itself?
Sure. Open distro for Elasticsearch was really a collection of extensions or plugins that we were adding to Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch needed Elasticsearch was adding a lot of proprietary plugins into Elasticsearch. And so what we did is we came up with a different suite that you could use for doing search, for doing security, for doing enterprise grade anomaly detection, and sort of a variety of advanced features and functionality. ODFE is what we call it for short, Open Distro for Elasticsearch. And all of those components now are actually built into OpenSearch. So as of version 1.13, all future versions of all the plugins in ODFE are now available in OpenSearch.
So what was the thinking behind our actually doing the rename on this?
Fair. That's a great question. So why did we fork? Why did we do the rename? Well, the biggest reason is because we really wanted to have an identity independent of Elastic and Elasticsearch. We wanted to take this in a direction that was built and maintained by the community. We are just we believe building software in the open is really the right way to be building a software. It gives you an opportunity to get closer to your customers. They have an opportunity to go and actually give you feedback directly, very quickly, that gets into the code base. And so you can iterate much, much faster. And so one of the reasons why we changed the name, created the new distribution, is so that we could keep this sort of thriving ecosystem going. Okay. And you can have a lot of feedback.
If one of our customers is already using Elasticsearch, what is their migration path or process? Do they need to rewrite, rebuild, migrate, or is it transparent? How does that all work?
Oh, I think that's a great question. So if you're using an open source version of Elasticsearch, you don't got to worry about anything. If you're on the managed service, don't worry about a thing. It continues to run exactly the way that you hoped that it would run. Now, if you're thinking about migrating and going to OpenSearch 1.0, it's just like migrating to any newer version of Elasticsearch. You go to the web, you go to your console, you click on the upgrade button, you wait for a little bit, and we will automatically migrate the data to the new engine. And OpenSearch 1.0 is 100%, the APIs are 100% compatible with the Elasticsearch 7.10 APIs. It's wire compatible. So you don't have to worry about changing your applications, all of your clients. We've actually even forked all the open source clients that are out there for Elasticsearch, so that they will continue to work with OpenSearch. So if you have your existing application, don't have to worry about it. And if you want to move to OpenSearch and use newer functionality that are in these clients, you can use one of these forked clients as well. So don't have to worry about it, and the ecosystem is going to come along with us.
Yeah, that's great. So we're developing this in public. Is there a public roadmap, and what does that mean for our customers?
Oh, what a great question. So this is new for us in AWS, right? And we struggled with this, but I think at the end of the day, we want to be true to the open source ecosystem. So not just putting the source code out there. That's not the only thing that we're doing.
Right.
We're actually also putting our entire roadmap out there in the public as we go along and decide what we're going to build. And we're actually doing the building in the public. You'll see commits that are sort of intermediate commits in GitHub. And all of this stuff is in GitHub repos that you can watch yourself. And if you want to give us feedback on our public roadmap or some of the things that are coming through, feel free to just go directly to GitHub and open an issue or send us a comment, and we'll respond as quickly as we can. There are other ways that you can give us feedback as well. You can go to the forums and create a new topic or a discussion. You can just email us directly. And other ways that you can actually influence us is by standing up and contributing, collaborating with us on documentation, on blogs, or just even actually just writing code and doing a pull request. We have a number of people that have already submitted a bunch of things from the community.
That's great to hear that you're taking so much community input, and watching the chat and all the great questions and feedback in the chat. I see that we've got some of our viewers are asking about job opportunities at AWS and at Amazon. It seems to me that one interesting avenue to do that might be to get involved as a open source community contributor to the product. Start sending feedback, sending pull requests, kind of show that you're interested, show that you got the passion for it, and then at a certain point, kind of raise your hand and say, hey, you may already know me. Would you like to hire me? Is that legit?
Absolutely. If you're active, you're sending us stuff. We're taking your commits and your pull requests and bring them into the code base. And you're interested in working on open source, please give us a call. We actually have lots of, or actually just go to the Amazon.com jobs website, and we have a number of jobs already posted there. If you're interested in working on open source, come to OpenSearch. You can apply directly over there. You can send us a note over email. If you go to opensearch.org, soon enough, there are going to be job postings there as well, and you can go and look over there as well. So there's a bunch of different ways, but absolutely, if you're interested, and you don't have to be just a developer, by the way, we're hiring product managers, go-to-market specialists, as well as open source engineers, people that really just care a lot about open source, but want to do development in a fast-moving, growing environment like ours.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, there's a number of links that have been dropped in the chat related to both getting involved as well as finding jobs in this space as well. So one concern that I think people might have is that Elasticsearch might fall behind OpenSearch. Can you talk a little bit about that? And you've mentioned multiple times now that there's 100% backwards compatibility, and the tools are going to continue to work. But what are we doing to make sure that is the case?
I think that's a brilliant question. A lot of our customers really are worried about it, and I know where they're coming from. Right? There's a name change. We're telling you everything is exactly the same as it used to be, but is it really? Is the community going to continue to come with us? And I want to make sure that there's no doubt about this. When Amazon and AWS decide that they're going to go invest in something and give our customers an offering, we plan on doing it for a very, very, very long time, pretty much forever. And so we will continue to invest in OpenSearch independently so that OpenSearch and its ecosystem continues to thrive. We're already doing it. We've done the fork. If you look at OpenSearch 1.0, there are a number of new features in there that we're going to be showing you shortly. I'll talk about those in a second. There are also a number of things that are in the managed service today, advanced features that we plan on moving into the open source. So you're going to see a lot more of this stuff coming in the future. Things that you might think are, well, that's really far out. Not so much. For example, in the roadmap, we have cross-cluster replication. It gives you much higher availability than you were able to get today. Improvements in machine learning and anomaly detection. Stuff that felt like science fiction a few years ago is going to be in the open source soon enough. So we're pushing on that, but also all of the tools that work with open source, we're committed to those as well. The clients, as we said, we're forking, and you'll be able to continue to evolve your applications with your client of your choice, OpenSearch Dashboards, but all the programming language clients. And then there are ingestion tools as well. And we're investing in Data Prepper. And that's going to be sort of the tool for ingestion as we go forward.
Wow, it sounds really cool. Can we actually see this in action?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if Carl is available here, but we should get it started and it can show you how you can actually just migrate. It's pretty simple. And then he'll show you two or three, I think two of the three main features that we have in OpenSearch. Data streams, notebooks, and transforms. He's going to focus on the last two. I'll hand it over to him.
Thank you, Mehul. Hi, Carl.
Hi.
Hey, Carl.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Tell us what you do at AWS.
So I run product management for Mehul for across our search services line of business. So yeah, I help us figure out the stuff we want to build, talk to customers, do all the fun stuff.
Excellent. And what are you going to show us?
I'm going to give you a walkthrough of the newly renamed Amazon OpenSearch service, and then we're going to pull up OpenSearch 1.0 and see what it looks like.
Okay, I'm going to share your screen.
Okay, great. So for those of you familiar, this is the Amazon Management Console. The first off, this Amazon OpenSearch service is a rename. So it's still the same service you know and love. You'll see that if you go to your services and you go to analytics, there's no Elasticsearch. It says Amazon OpenSearch service. But to help you, got this little tag here that says successor to Elasticsearch. So there's no surprises. And if this menu's daunting, you can always just type in OpenSearch and you'll find it. It's right here. And once you get there, if you're an Amazon Elasticsearch service user, this will look very familiar. It is the same service. It's just that now we have this new column for engine, and you can see all of my Elasticsearch environments are still running. Nothing broke. They're all very happy. But I have this new one that also shows OpenSearch 1.0. And if I go to create a new domain, I can choose. So like by default, it's going to the latest version is the 1.0. But if all of my apps, and thank you, Docker, if all of my apps are still coded to say Elasticsearch 6.8, no worries. I can still deploy Elasticsearch 6.8. We'll still support it. We still take care of it. But for the latest and greatest, I'll go to 1.0. And if I'm now ready to take the leap, and let's say I've got an Elasticsearch 7.8 domain, like this one here, and I want to upgrade it to OpenSearch 1.0, it's just a simple click. I can upgrade it to 1.0. In one click, it's going to go and do an in-place upgrade and bring that domain up to the latest version. So with that, let's actually jump over and look at OpenSearch 1.0. And to do that, we're going to look at the OpenSearch Dashboards. So OpenSearch Dashboards is the visualization interface that pairs with OpenSearch. It's the fork of Kibana, which, fun fact, Grafana, which we talked about quite a bit earlier, is also a fork of Kibana. So the OpenSearch Dashboards does actually probably share some code deep in the bowels somewhere with what Helen was talking about earlier. Okay, I'm logging in. And now once I log into OpenSearch Dashboards, as I mentioned, it's a visualization tool for exploring and analyzing the data that I have in OpenSearch. So the standard features that I had in there for Kibana are all here in OpenSearch Dashboards. If I want to go just look at some dashboards I've already created, I've got here some sample data for global flights. This is the type of thing I can do with OpenSearch Dashboards. I can build all sorts of rich visualizations and graphics here in OpenSearch Dashboards. One second, while it loads. There you go. So I can see all sorts of visualizations. Now, as Mehul mentioned, the OpenSearch 1.0 isn't just a port of Elasticsearch 7.10. We've actually also introduced some new features, and with every version, we're releasing new features. So with OpenSearch 1.0, you can see we've got these panels. Here's the standard panels that existed with Kibana and Dashboards. These plugins are the extensions that were developed as part of ODFE, or Open Distro for Elasticsearch, that we've also ported over to OpenSearch. So much of this functionality came from Open Distro. Now, with OpenSearch 1.0, we've added a few new features. So I was going to show you two of the three. We added data streams, which is a new type of indexing, and time series index patterns. And we've got transforms is the first one I want to show you. Transforms is a function that's included in our index management section. You use index management to manage the life cycle of indexes over time. You can move them across different storage tiers or roll them off the cluster, but you can also do things to change how the data is structured in an index. So an existing feature we had was called a roll-up, where you'd roll up data. The new feature that's introduced in 1.0 is called a transform. So with the transform, we'll go ahead and make a job. It's pretty straightforward. It's a lot like creating a materialized view in a database, where what I'll do is we're just going to call this transform. And first thing I do is I select the source index. So I'm going to select that sample flight data source I was using for that dashboard a minute ago. And then I specify a target. So I'm going to send it to a new index called transform. And then I specify the which fields I want to put in that index. So this is pretty straightforward. So from the source index, I want to grab my destination cities. I'm going to grab the average ticket price. I'm going to grab my flight distance in miles. And I'm going to grab flights. Let's do delays in minutes. And I'm going to pull this destination up to the top. Okay. And then we can see what I want to do with this data in the target index is I'm going to, sorry, 1 second. There it is. Group by terms. And so I can see down below what the target index is going to look like. I want to do an aggregate by count. I'm going to do an aggregate by average for the ticket price. I'm going to do an aggregate by average for the distance. And I'm going to let's do an aggregate by max for the flight delays. And if I go ahead and click next, it's going to create a job. And I'll say create. And then I'll see I'll have my transform job here created. Now, and it's as simple as that. Now, I can actually go to one of our other plugins, this Query Workbench. And the Query Workbench is where I can explore my data using either SQL or PPL, processing language, is a language that we developed, which uses standard Unix-style types to explore data. And I'm just going to do just super simple, source, transform, index, and head 20. I run that, and there's my index. There's my transformed index, the new index that we just created. So great. So that's how I do a transform job. The next feature I want to show you, and I'll build on this one, is a new feature.
One quick question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
I was about to ask if this was basically a one-time thing or if it was live and dynamic, but I think I briefly saw a screen or two ago that there was some kind of a schedule available to run the jobs. Is that right?
It is. It's a one-time. You can do it by API and you can schedule it, but it's essentially right now it's not a fully dynamic operation. It's essentially kind of doing a fancy re-index. So on a very large set of indexes, it could be a kind of an expensive operation. So it might be something you'd say schedule for once an hour or once a night. But it's certainly feedback that I think would be interesting to see if we could have this sort of as a more of a dynamic feature to look at down the road. So from there, let's jump over to another new feature that came out in OpenSearch 1.0, and this is called notebooks. So we saw a dashboard earlier, and dashboards are essential to like Grafana and Kibana and dashboards. And what they are is a set of visualizations that are usually linked by a single time window. So you'll have a bunch of visualizations, and you can change the time window, and all the visualizations refresh. A notebook is similar in concept, but different. With a notebook, what you're doing is you're using text and visualizations to tell more of a story. So the data in the notebook isn't linked by time; it's linked by a story. So you can organize your notebook like in paragraphs. So this is a sample one, but I'll just show you how easy it is. Let's go ahead and add a paragraph at the top, and you can do code blocks or visualizations. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick code block. There we go. And you see here, the code block can be Markdown, SQL, or PPL. Well, I'm just going to do that same PPL statement I did a second ago. And I'll say run. And now I've got that table I just showed you. And I can add another paragraph at the top. Let's do a code block again. And this time I can say Markdown. That data I told you about. And then if I wanted to, after that, I could say just throw a visualization to go along with it. And the thing about these visualizations, so if you were doing a root cause analysis of an event, you could describe what set up the event, do a graph before the event happened, and then talk about the steps, do another graph that showed the intermediates, and then talk about it, and then do a graph after the event. And you could store it all in this document to share. But adding a visualization is as simple as I can go to my, let's go to some of these visualizations I have, like say flight delays. And I specify my time. And then I can just embed this in this notebook. And when I'm done, I can see like I've got this output only view where I can actually see all of this data. And if I wanted to, I could go ahead and save it out to a PDF and share it with somebody. Or any of my other users in my dashboards that have access to this notebook can come in and see the data in real time and see it constantly refresh.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Jarno about index views. You just mentioned in real time. Can this monitor the data actively? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm trying to think about make sure I understand the question. Can index, okay, so like can transform, monitor the data actively. It is these are scheduled events. Like I think that was similar to what Jeff had asked as well. It is a scheduled event. So when you run a transform job, you can trigger it, like say to run on the hour. You could trigger it to run faster if it was a very lightweight job. But it isn't. It doesn't like dynamically then monitor the index and keep it up to date and refreshed. That is a cool feature. And if you've heard about glue elastic views, that's one of the things that it does so well. It's in preview now, but it allows you to do materialized views across data sources, and OpenSearch will be one of those targets.
Got it.
I love this idea that our customers can use this to actually tell stories around their data. And kind of interesting that we've reinvented effectively paper and notebooks and a linear flow in order to make that natural and human.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else that you'd like to show us today?
Nope. So I'll keep it. I just want to give you guys some of the highlights, and make sure folks knew that everything was fine. It has a new name. All your Elasticsearch is still loved.